All right, you guys, welcome to page 2. What we need to remember about creating equations from stories, and we're working with the slope-intercept form, y equals slope times x plus our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is the starting point. It's where your line is going to cross the y-axis, and your slope is the rise over the run, our little slope triangle. You have notes on this, please get them out. It will be easier. So let's go ahead, and I always like to define my variables, and I think we did this in class. Y is going to be equal to the cost, because the cost that you pay to rent a bicycle is dependent upon how many hours, which is x, you rent it, right? Cost in hours. So y equals, how much is it per hour? That's going to be the slope. $2 per hour. Remember, and hours are our x. $2 per hour plus our flat rate of $20, which means that you would have to pay $20 even if you didn't ride the bike anywhere for any amount of time. And you can read it exactly like this, like the cost, instead of saying y, I could say the cost of the bike rental is equal to $2 per hour. X is hours, so I said hours, plus $20 is the starting point you have to pay anyway. Okay? Then an auto repair shop charges $50 plus $25 per hour. So the slope is that per, right? And $50 must be the flat fee. What are charges? Y is going to be the total charges, right? Because it's dependent. Y is the dependent variable. It's dependent on how many hours people work on your car, right? So X is the hours again. So it's kind of money in hours again, you guys. And it's Y, or the charge that you get charged for fixing your car, is equal to $25 per hour. X is hours, plus a $50 fee just, to look at the car. I don't know if you've ever talked with your parents about this, but sometimes they just, to look at your car, have to charge a certain amount of money, okay? Here's where things get interesting. Let's define our variables. In this case, Y is, we have inches, kind of where are units? We have inches and inches per hour, right? So hour is again the X, and what is dependent on the hours in this case? It's the height of the candle is dependent on the hours that it burns. Something else interesting about this is that it's obviously 2.1. If you mess that, didn't get that number correctly, that's my fault. 2.1 obviously is our rate, inches per hour, plus our candle was originally 6 inches tall, but our candle is getting shorter the longer it burns, right? And how do we recognize that in an equation? We put a negative. That means we're taking away 2.1 inches every hour that it burns. A lot of people, when they're looking at these equations, they want to make the y-intercept negative, and that's not correct here. That would mean we start off with a candle that doesn't exist for 6 inches. I mean, that doesn't even make sense in this particular situation, okay? So just be careful. Let's see, here we have, let me start with the independent this time. Again, hours. It looks like hours is the independent variable in each of these. Be careful, that's not always going to be the case. You have to think to yourself, what are we looking for? In this case, we're looking for the temperature, and that's going to be our output, our Y value, our dependent. And then what is it dependent on? In this case, it's hours, temp. Okay, so our temperature starts off, and you can write it backwards. As a matter of fact, let's do it backwards this time. Our temperature starts off at 15 degrees positive, and it falls 2 degrees every hour. So we have to take away 2 degrees each hour. Okay, so you can write it with the y-intercept first, and then the slope, which makes a little bit more sense when you're talking about a negative slope. Okay, let's try the next one. What is this one? The graph below, but it's above in this case because I transferred it over here. shows the number of newspapers delivered and total pay for Leona's newspaper delivery job. This graph makes it really easy to define our variables because we don't even have to think about it. It gives us the y variable. That's dollars. It's on the y-axis, right? Money, total pay in dollars, right? And our x is number of newspapers delivered. That's a terrible D. Delivered, right? What does it want us to find? What does it want us to find? What does the slope of the graph represent? Well, let's find the slope. We can do that. Here's a perfect point. It's the rise over the run. The rise is 5, 0, 5. The run is from 0 to 20. The run is 20. So our slope is equal to the change in y over the change in x, which was 5 over 20, which reduces to 1 over 4. And what's on the y? The y is dollars, and this is newspapers. So what does the slope mean? The slope means that for every, and I want you to write this down in a complete sentence right here in the correct spot, write it down in a complete sentence. For every, and I'm not doing a good job because I want to see who's actually listening to this and who's just trying to copy it down. Nope, that's not even true, right? For every 4 newspapers delivered, I make $1, or I make $1 for every 4 newspapers delivered, right? So finish writing that complete sentence down here, right? And that comes directly from what our slope is up here. Almost done, you guys. Dion's boat rentals. Dion pays a fixed fee plus an hourly rate to rent a boat. The table shows how much Dion paid for the boat. What was Dion's hourly rate to rent the boat? Well, if you have your notes out, you would know how I can view, or how you can see the slope in a table. Okay, what was Dion's hourly rate to rent the boat? Well, what is it from 27 to 39 and 39 to 51? I think it's 12. I need you to double check that. So like you can find that by 39 minus 27, right? And 51 minus 39. I think this is 12. I'm just doing the math in my head, and I want you guys to be active participants. So make sure that that is, use a calculator to double check me, because if I am wrong, you will need to tell me next time. So what was the hourly rate to rent the boat? And for extra credit, what is the y-intercept? Because you can't see it on the table, right? It has 1 here. We need to go back for 0. So I think if you subtract 12 there, it'll get your y-intercept. Find that y-intercept for me too. Okay, I'll give you a point if you come in and let me know what it is. All right, the function below. So we've talked about a table, we've talked about a graph, and now the equation, right? What part of the na is that? The table was the n, or the graph obviously is the table was the n, and this is the, algebraically, this is the equation. The function below shows the cost Miss Franklin goes to go to a buffet with C of her grandchildren. So C is the number of grandkids, right? Oh, kids, with a K. And oh, this is cool, you guys. F of C means a function of C. This is called function notation. We will be learning this in a couple of more months, but that's the same as just saying y, okay? What is the y-intercept and what does it mean? Well, we can see that in the equation, right? It's right here, 6.85. So that means, what does that mean in the situation? Well, I guess that would mean she's taking 0 grandkids, right? So 685 means that's the amount of money for just herself, right? And you need to write that down. That would be the W, the written part. 685 means, and then finish that sentence. How much to eat by herself? What is the slope? That's the 295. So 295 means, and you guys probably already have this figured out, that is how much it is for every kid to eat, right? So if she takes 5, it'd be 295 times 5. If Miss Franklin paid $18.65 for the buffet, how many of her grandkids did she take for the buffet? This is going to be the total, so you can rewrite the equation. You're going to have to solve the equation. If it's $18.65 and it was like $6.85 for just her and $2.95 for every grandkid, but children, that's what the C stands for. I was like, kid. Grandchild, then if you can get C by itself, you know how many kids she took to eat to pay $18.65. So we subtract $6.85 from both sides, right? $6.85, and we get 0, 7. Carry, I'm doing this in my head. 16 is 8. 17 minus 6 is 11, right? 1180. 95. So if you divide both sides by 295, you should get the number. I don't know if that works out evenly. You will have to round this because we can't cut grandkids in half. Divided by 295. And tell us, and then in a complete sentence, how many, right? How many if she spent $18.65, then she took blah, 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 how many kids out to dinner. Watch this again if you struggled with it, and I will answer questions the next time I see you.